What's up YouTube? It's Ken again. Thanks for stopping by the channel. In this video, I am actually replacing the brake fluid on my 2010 Odyssey. This is something you're supposed to do every 3 years, according to Honda, at least in my case for my Odysseys. These are the tools that you're going to need in front of you. Everything from, here over. That's power steering fluid in the back. Pay no attention to that. But these are the tools I'm using. I wanted to show the MightyVac system too, or at least just kind of illustrate it in the video. I prefer the methodology of changing the brake fluid that requires 2 people. So you can get a kit like this that has the vacuum tool and all the various accessories with it, and that will allow you to bleed the brakes and keep a vacuum on that line solo. But I actually prefer this method for the Odyssey. I tried this and it didn't actually work out so well, and this is just tried and true, and I've used it a bunch of times and I love it. I'm cutting back in because I forgot to make my usual disclaimer. Remember that I'm a DIYer, I'm not a professional, and especially because we're dealing with brakes, it's really important that you make sure that the steps I'm following are appropriate. So I would implore you to do your own research and check down in the comments below, because what's great about the YouTube community is that if someone does something inappropriate, usually people will post and share their thoughts and opinions, which is great. That all said, we'll cut back into the video and get started. This is just a Gatorade bottle with a hole punched in the middle. You don't have to get that perfectly tight. It's just there to keep the hose in place. Nothing really fancy with that. So any bottle will do of this, size and makeup. I like a clear bottle, that way you can see the fluid and everything, and clear hosing. And I'll get to the hosing specs in a little bit. With this method though, you want one person in the driver's seat and then one person at each of the wheels after you get the vehicle completely up on jack stands and the wheels off, obviously. And then you crack open the bleeder valve with a 6-point socket. You can see here this is a 6-point. You want a 6-point to get good contact on that bleeder valve, because if you use a 12-point like the box end wrench on here is, that could round off that valve and you don't want that. So crack it loose with the socket and the ratchet, and then you can use the open end of this box end wrench to do the actuation when it comes time to do that. But with one person in the driver's seat, like I said, they push down the brake, and you make sure that the master cylinder is topped off. That's really important. Keep it topped off. If it goes dry during this process, then you've got to restart the whole ordeal and get a whole new bottle of brake fluid. But they push down on the brake, and then once it's cracked loose with the ratchet, you tighten it back up a little bit, just not at all, really, just so it's not leaking out. And then you put the tube on and you open up the bleeder valve until fluid comes through. Their foot's going to go to the floor as they're holding down on that pedal. Once it's at the floor, you close with that ratchet, the bleeder valve, and then they release and reapply pressure to the brake. It'll go about halfway down again, as it should. And then you rinse and repeat and open the valve up again, let the fluid come through, their foot goes to the floor, you close the valve, and then they let off, and then they put pressure back again, and you open and again, rinse, repeat. The other thing is I keep this above the caliper, and I keep a little bit of fluid in there, basically so that if I mess up and I don't close the valve when I'm supposed to, if anything goes back in, it's just going to be fluid. Dirty or old fluid or not, it's going to be fluid and not air. For this job, like all things Honda, I use only their fluids. This is their .3 genuine brake fluid, 32 ounces or 1 quart, and this is all that you need to replace the fluid in the vehicle. You want to start furthest away from the master cylinder, so that's going to be the rear passenger wheel. Then I go to the rear driver wheel, then the passenger wheel, and then the driver wheel. And you're done at each given wheel, well, especially if you haven't done it in a while, your fluid is going to be really dirty. When you start seeing the clear fluid from your new stuff, because you're going to keep that master cylinder topped up, you're going to open and shut the valve maybe 5, 6, 7 times, maybe a little bit more. As you get practiced with it, you'll know how much you can do it. And then you're going to shut it with the wrench like you've been doing, check the fluid in the master cylinder, top it up, and then again, rinse, repeat, because you don't want to let it go dry. If you do let the fluid, I would say, for me, if it goes under the minimum level, then I'm getting a new bottle and restarting in the master cylinder. So, you're only out about, what, 12, 16 bucks for the fluid, but still, you don't want to let that happen. When it comes time to tighten down the bleeder valves, it's 7 foot-pounds of torque, so just bear that in mind. That's my 1/4 inch drive Tecton torque wrench that I use. I'll be honest, I just tightened it up with that ratchet there. And while you have all the wheels off and the vehicle up, it's not a bad idea to do a tire rotation and check your brakes while you're there. And I do that later in the video. You can see the process for it and the demonstration of it. All of that said, some of this information is going to be covered again throughout the video, but I realized in my post-edit process that I didn't really cover a lot of this in the detail that I wanted to. And that happens, you know, you just start trucking away on a project and it kind of comes together after the fact better. So without further ado, let's roll into the video. I have here an old Gatorade bottle and I have some plastic tubing. It's discolored from all the uses that I've done this with. And the inside diameter is 1/4 inch and the outside diameter is 3/8. This works really well. I've, again, used it a lot. And you want the bottom of the tubing sunk into fluid. This is just some old brake fluid. And that way it won't suck basically air back into your line. And what I'm gonna do is keep this actually hoisted above the brakes, the caliper, while I do this. I believe that matters as well. And we're just gonna pop this onto the bleeder valve after I pull a little dust cover off of it. And then we'll crack that open. It's a 10 mil. I'll probably crack it open with a ratchet first because it's gonna be pretty tight. And then I'll use a 12-point wrench to actuate it. All right, well, as you can see, I don't have a dust cover on this one, interestingly enough. So I'm gonna crack it loose. We're going counterclockwise. Hopefully it will crack loose easily. Yeah, it appears to have. I'm gonna keep that tight. And now we will proceed to put our bottle. I just rest it up on top of the whole wheel assembly here. Pop the tubing on. And then you should, once you have it cracked loose with the ratchet, again, it's a 6-point ratchet, you should be able to open it. So I'm gonna have my helper push down on the brakes. Push down on the brakes, Av, and hold it. Are you doing that? Okay, so there's going to be some communication between us, and keep it held down until I tell you to. You're going to feel it go to the floor, okay? Do you feel it going to the floor? Yeah. Let me know when it's at the floor. And you can't push anymore. And don't let up. Okay. Now let it go and pump it back again as far as you can. And you don't have to push real hard. Just, you know, use moderate strength. Okay, and once you're pushed in, let me know. And hold it there. So you're never going to release your foot unless I tell you to, okay? Yeah. Okay, are you pushed in? Not all the way to the floor. Right, but it's pushed in as far as you can? I think. Yep, okay, I'm going to open this again. So keep pushing and just hold it down and let me know when you're at the floor. We're at the floor. Okay, let it go and push it again. And let me know when you've done that. Keep pushing. Yep. And once you're at the floor, let me know. Yep. Okay. Let it go. Push. Yep. Let me know when it's at the floor. It is. Okay, let it go and push. Okay, let it go and push. Okay, now hold it there. Or actually, you can let go. I've locked it. So every time that I'm asking my helper to push, once they're pushed in, I'm opening it to release fluid into the tubing, into the bottle. And when they get to the floor, I close it and then they let go and push again. Now, what I'm gonna do is keep the master cylinder topped up. You don't want your master cylinder that holds the brake fluid under the hood to ever run dry. If it does, you've got to repeat this whole process. So I'll be right back while I fill that up. All right, so here we are with our brake fluid, .3 from Honda. This is a 32-ounce, 1-quart bottle. This should be all that you need for bleeding this entire system. This stuff is very, I believe the word is caustic. And if you spill it like I just did, you're gonna need to wipe it up later. I might actually do that right now because it winds up over the transmission and I'm sure that's not good for it. But again, you want to keep that full. I'm actually going to pour a little bit more. There's not a great way to do this. I could have gotten a funnel. That would have been better. But this is how I tend to do it. All right, so we're back at the same caliper. And we're going to keep this process up for quite a few more pumps until we start seeing some clearer liquid. This is kind of a dark amber brown. Notice too that we don't have any air bubbles in this line, and so that's good. All right. Are you pushed in?
Yes.
You're not to the floor though, right?
No.
Okay, I'm gonna open it.
Yeah.
Okay, let go. And push again.
Yeah.
Okay, we're done with this side.
Let go.
Yeah. You can let go. And what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna tighten this one up.
You have 4 more of these to do?
3 more. This was the longest one because it has the most distance to travel for the entire system. All right, so YouTube, what I do when I'm done with a wheel, I put the bottle on the floor and then I let the line drain down into it just by holding the line up, basically. And so there's about where we're at. I might have pulled a little bit too much fluid from this side, but you know, then again, maybe I didn't pull quite enough, but you know, we're replacing the fluid as much as we can here. And then I just tighten it. All right, so now we're on to the rear driver's side wheel. And I'm not gonna demonstrate this process. I'm just gonna go ahead and get her done. But we'll do this one, and then we'll do the passenger wheel, the front passenger, and then we'll do the driver wheel. Topping it up in between, don't forget that. Make sure your fluid stays in the reservoir. But once we're done, then we'll top up the fluid again, or just make sure it's at its max level, and put the cap on it. All right, so we're all done, and here's a look at the amount of fluid that I've extracted from the lines. You know, it's hard to say whether I got all of it out, because the color on this was clear enough to where it wasn't super dirty, and so it was hard to distinguish when I was getting to the new fluid. And that's a good thing. That means it's been changed recently. It's within the service specs. So I'm not too worried about it because of that. I just change it every 3 years. Another good thing to do anytime you have the wheels off, really, is to check your brakes. I've got, almost dropped it. I've got one of these gauges here that tell you, and you can see that says 2 millimeters. That really needs to be changed. If it's there, 3 millimeters and then 4. I believe we're at 4. Let me pull out the measurement for 4 and I will demonstrate that real quick. I pulled out the measurement for 4, and you can actually see on this side, we're not even at 4. We're at probably 3. Yeah, so yikes. On this side, the amount of pad, so the material between the backing plate of the pad and the actual pad material itself, we are at 2 millimeters. Yeah, actually, I thought I was at 4 millimeters. Now I am on the other side, on the passenger front. But here, I'm hoping this isn't too shaky for you. I'm trying to hold and show and focus all at the same time. This is a 2 millimeter gauge. It's a little bit more roomy than the 2 millimeters, so it's maybe 2.5 or 2 and some change. But definitely I need to replace these. And I'll go ahead and probably replace the front rotors as well. I mean, they look good. I might just buy pads. I've done that in the past. So what I can do is actually measure the thickness of the rotors. I might go ahead and look that up and do that and just check for pitting. I don't like to replace rotors unless you absolutely have to. If I'm not mistaken, this is how you actually measure them with a caliper. I've got it situated so that the jaws can, you know, grab on. You're welcome. So we're looking like 27.3, and I think you're supposed to check this in a few different places, like all the way around. So I don't have the backing plate off, but measuring here, well, really here, here, about there, there, and I couldn't actually measure here either because of the backing plate. 27.30 millimeters is the distance between those points, pretty much all the way around. I've done just pads before and I've had no issues. And that's kind of the benefit of doing this service work yourself. I mean, you can make those determinations and you're not just relying on somebody else. And, you know, if you are a shop from a liability standpoint, why would they ever just put pads on? And I'm sure there's other reasons to go ahead and swap it all out. That's for sure, you know, I guess the safest thing to do, again, liability wise. But with that in mind, and keep in mind, I'm just a DIYer and I've just done some research on my own. So please do your own, but why fix what isn't broken? I'm learning that lesson more and more these days. And so why spend money that you don't need to spend? If these still have life on them, then go ahead and get the life out of them before you replace them. So that's all said and done. I will also try and find some dust covers. I like having those. This one was the only one that had it, and noticeably the bleeder valve itself was a lot shinier and rust-free, as one would expect it to be. It didn't seem to really hurt anything on the others, but you know, if we can go ahead and replace that, why not? One last mention on this video, I also took the opportunity to rotate the tires. This is the front driver's side wheel. So what I did is I took the wheel from it, moved it straight back to the driver's side rear, did the same with the passenger side tire, moved it back to the passenger side rear. The reason being, I mean, I've got all 4 points on jack stands of the vehicle, so might as well rotate the tires while I'm in here. And then for the back 2 tires, I crisscrossed them up front. So the one on the rear driver's side goes to the front passenger side over there. And then the one on the rear passenger side actually comes up here to this wheel, to the front driver's side wheel. And so in doing that, we are preserving the life of our tires. I'm also checking the tire pressure as I go, but they are perfect. And I actually put these tires on this vehicle, so they're holding well and they're looking great and doing great. Love them. The car drives really well. So anyway, I'm going to keep motoring on. I got to get the wheels back on. I got to get it off jack stands. And then I'm actually going to replace the power steering fluid. So I think I'll have that in a different video, but I'm going to try and get that done today. All right. Well, thank you very much for watching. To be continued on the front brakes. If you like this content, please do consider giving me a thumbs up. And if you want to see more content like this, please do consider subscribing. And last but certainly not least, please always feel free to put comments or questions down below in the comment section. Thank you so much for watching. Peace.